Welcome to this week's episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in as little as 15 minutes to build your dream business. And now here's your host, the Visibility Whiz, Cindy J.
Hi, I'm Cindy J, the Visibility Whiz, and welcome to this episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in 15 minutes or less to build your business. And today our guest is Alex Lombard. He specializes in social media marketing and influencer creation. He has been on this journey for over 6 years and has been able to grow an audience on Instagram of over 1 million followers. Welcome, Alex. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be on here.
And to begin with, can you share a personal or business challenge that you had to overcome in order to achieve your level of success?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually kind of a mixture of the first thing that came to mind in terms of challenges. I've gone through a lot of them. I guess I'll state that first. Anyone in business and in living life, you're going to go through challenges. But for me, one of the biggest challenges I've faced, and it kind of brings both together in terms of personal and business, and I think it relates to a lot of people. But that's just simply the topic of money. I spent a good 4.5 years of my journey just broke as a joke, like doing whatever I could just to make ends meet, to survive, honestly. And that was a huge challenge for me, because at the end of the day, it's I'm this young kid that's on this journey, and I'm around all these really successful people, which was such an honor and it helped me so much. But here I am, and I can't even pay my bills. I'm buying the cheapest of the cheap of everything. And it was, and I'm trying to build a big business, right? I'm trying to become successful and wealthy. And, so it was a really difficult a couple years of my life, to the point where I legitimately had to, borrow money from relatives and family and friends and things like that. I like to say that, my story is really similar to the ancient story of the Chinese bamboo tree. If you haven't heard that, go look it up. I'm not going to dive into it, but it's just simply the idea of, you're basically watering this plant, this seed for, 5-6 years and nothing happens. Right. And if you're putting all this work in and nothing's happening, you're not receiving the benefit from all the work and the labor that you're putting into it. And then in year 7, this thing grows like 90 feet in 60 days or something like that. There's a bunch of different numbers. But point is that, it's delayed gratification. And that's really, truly what my story is all about. And that's honestly why I'm grateful for it. And I love it, because I think it relates with people. And, it wasn't an overnight success. I put in the work years ago, and it came back around 5-6 years later. So biggest challenge, living broke and learning how to survive in that without staying in there. That's the challenge. It's breaking through that wall of getting out of that mentality of I'm always broke, and moving into the success mindset. So that's what I would say.
It always goes back to mindset. But one thing that I really caught that I really love is you said you were surrounded by successful people. Mm-hmm. And so therefore you was determined, and you knew that, hey, as long as I keep hanging out with these successful people, it's going to come sooner or later.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a huge key. I mean, your environment makes you or breaks you, it's I like to always say, if you're hanging around, 9 crackheads, you're probably going to be the 10th, right? And it's like a funny analogy, but it's true. And if you're hanging around the right people, it will impact your life. And so I had the honor of being able to, to do that at an early age.
And next, how did you get into Instagram marketing? I love that you have like hundreds of thousands of followers yourself. So how did you get into Instagram?
Yeah, so Instagram started for me right actually at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey about 6 years ago. I was involved in a direct selling business, and part of the business is you had to bring on, new affiliates, and you had to sell product, right? And so when I kind of ran through what's called like your warm market, which is like people that like in your personal life, I was forced to go, elsewhere and find new connections. And so I got introduced to Instagram at that time because I was looking for something else. And I had a buddy of mine who was using Instagram in order to connect with people. And he was like, hey man, you should do this. You'd do really well with it, blah, blah, blah. And so I got involved early on in order to literally just create a new sales force and sell products. That was the whole goal. And then from there, really what ignited everything was kind of the beginning. But what took it off was when I got involved in Instagram, 6 years ago, I started seeing people that were no better than me, that were younger than me, that had no credibility at all. But here they are with a big brand online, and they're making money, and they were traveling, and, you know, they're doing things that I wanted to do because of their Instagram influence. And that just blew my mind. It kind of opened up a whole new, you know, doorway, if you will. So that's kind of the beginning and the roots of it.
Right. And I know with Instagram, so many people think, oh, Instagram's easy. Just throw up a bunch of pictures and they will come. We both know that's not exactly how it works. So What are some of the mistakes that you see people make over and over again when they get an Instagram account?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess the first thing I would say is, you know, content is definitely very powerful. Like, you have to have very good content. No, it's not, you know, you're not going to build a massive brand because you just throw out pictures. Like you said, there's more to it than that. But I mean, even just starting with that, it's like, if you don't have good content, that's kind of the basics, you know, of Instagram. And honestly, I mean, I work with hundreds and hundreds of people. Many of them are really, you know, very high level individuals. And I look at their Instagram accounts and it's not good. You know, they're putting up blurry pictures of their dog and there's no structure, there's no theme. So the question that I always ask them, and I challenge people listening to this, if you're on Instagram, to ask yourself is, you know, there's billions of people, like literally over 1 billion people that log into Instagram every single month, right? So what makes you stick out? Why would somebody who doesn't know you, why would they follow you if they came across your page? And the answer to that is, you know, because you provide value and you do it through the form of telling a story that's, you know, catching. So content creation, there's a lot involved with that, you know, images, videos, captions, all that stuff. You know, it's important to do that. And then the second thing I would say is just straight up value. You know, so many people, and I did this for so long, but so many people, they make the mistake of, you know, thinking that if they just can throw up some pictures, they can also throw up photos of their products and their websites, and they can try to, you know, sell people. And it just doesn't work like that. You know, you have to build a brand, you have to build a culture, which takes time. And the best way to do that is through providing actual value to individuals. And so figure out a way to create value, create curiosity for who you are, what you do, what you're about, through your brand, as opposed to just trying to see everybody as a dollar sign.
Exactly. And I know stories, like I was looking through your Instagram earlier, and every single picture you're talking about something, you're giving really good value tips. So can you explain the importance of hashtags, and also what's the best way to use them?
Yeah, so hashtags are a powerful part of really any social media, but they definitely play a role in Instagram. You know, really what they do is they kind of just act as like a gateway for people to find you, you know. And so when you use a hashtag, what happens is that your account now is involved in that specific hashtag, meaning that if somebody goes and they look up that hashtag, there's a chance that they can find your account. And so the goal is to rank up within the hashtag. So if you use a specific hashtag, you want to be featured in the top post of that tag. And that comes through a lot of different variables that the algorithm does. Gets kind of technical, but it's just really due to like engagement and how people respond to your posts and things like that. But hashtags are important. A couple tips with them. Number one, you can use up to 30 hashtags on Instagram, and I recommend you use all 30. And what you can do to keep your brand clean and still they're effective is you can take all 30 hashtags and you can actually post them as a comment on your own photo. What that does is it hides the hashtags because they're in the comments section, but they still work. Instagram still allows them to be viewed. And so, you know, really cool little tip right there. If you're not doing that, make sure you do that moving forward. And then in terms of like finding your hashtags, it's a big question I get a lot of times. You know, to keep it simple, what I'd recommend you do is you find 10 hashtags that are smaller hashtags, meaning that when you type in the name of the hashtag, it always shows you how many users are using that hashtag, how many people have posted with it. And you want that number to be really small because it gives you the ability to rank up. There's not as much competition, right? So you can rank up in that tag, creating more exposure for yourself. So the first 10, smaller ones. Next 10 equaling 20, you're at like medium size. Okay, so a little bit bigger. And then the last 10, completing the 30, these are going to be like a little bit higher. So these are going to be ones that have over 1 million. And they're going to be a lot harder to rank in. But the thing is if you post them on every single photo, and let's say you post once a day, that's 30 times a month. If you even just land in 1 or 2 of those, you're going to have a lot of exposure that comes in. And so you could absolutely go viral, land on the Discover page, things like that. So that's kind of the strategy that I preach and help people with. I call it the 1/3 rule, and it's just breaking the hashtags into thirds.
Now, should you, like, I'm the visibility whiz, and I don't do this, but should I be trying to start my own hashtag visibility whiz?
Yeah, it's a really good question too. So actually, on top of what I just explained, one of the things and suggestions I give everybody is take one of the 30 hashtags and make it your own. And so for me, like my brand's called Vision Wall. I use hashtag Vision Wall what I actually do is instead of putting that hashtag in the comment section to be hidden with all the rest, the other 29, I actually take it and I put it in the caption, because that way now when people are reading the caption, the very last thing they see is my branded hashtag. What this does is it just creates your brand long-term and allows another way for people to find you and connect with you, and establish yourself as your brand in the hashtag world. So yeah, I would recommend you do that, but I'd only recommend you do one.
Okay. And another question is with hashtags is you'd mentioned that, to do the comments. So what if you can't comment right as soon as you do the picture? What if you comment the next day? Are you still getting the same benefits, or does that decrease the benefits of using the hashtags?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. You wanna make sure that you comment right away, like immediately. And so the best way to do it is you create your hashtags and then just save them in the notes of your phone and then make it part of your posting process. So when you go post a photo or a video, you immediately then go and copy and paste the hashtags right into it. So yeah, I don't know the time frame exactly or percentages or anything like that, but what I do know is that if you do post them later, it won't do anything. So you just want to do it right away.
Mm-hmm. And so with your format of your pictures, should you have a certain format of the pictures? Whenever you said it tells a story. So how are you telling the story with your pictures? And the next I want to go into the video stories.
Yeah. So with content on the wall of your feed, there's not like an exact way that you have to do it. But what I suggest people do, because it creates clarity of what your brand's about, and it also gives structure to you, to where you go on your page and it's not just random and you actually know like what you're doing and you know the purpose of it. What I recommend you do is you break your feed into 3 columns. So if you look at Instagram, if you start at the left photo and you go down, that's one column. The middle photo and go down, that's another column. And then the third one, you go down, that's the third column. So you have 3 columns. And what I'd recommend is you create a pattern within those columns and you look at each column as its own theme. Okay, so let's say column number 1, it's all motivational quotes. And every single photo in that column has a white background with a black quote. Okay, that's just an example. And then let's say column number 2 is you're building a personal brand. Let's say column number 2 is all like travel related. And it's all about, your adventures and experiences at new places and, whatever. It's all just built around your travel. And then let's say column number 3 is more of like your personal life. So this is like your family and your friends and, when you go out and do cool things in your area or you do some community service, charity, whatever. So you have 3 different themes that you're sticking to. And now when people come to your page and they see that, they know what they're getting. They know what to expect on your next post and they get connected to it. And then, like I said, when you go on your account, it's really easy to then be like, oh, I got to post a quote today, or, oh, I got to put up some sort of content related to my last travel adventure that I just did. And so that's kind of what I recommend. Again, you don't have to follow that exact structure. There are other ways you can kind of do it. But if you keep that idea of breaking your page into different themes to tell different stories around your life, and then, of course, again, to provide value, that's a really good like tool that you can use for your page.
Very good. Thank you. And then Instagram stories. I know these are all the little, I think they're still 60-second videos, right? So what's the best way to utilize the stories?
Yeah. So with Instagram stories, there's actually 2 strategies that I recommend everybody do. Number 1 is you provide value. Keep hearing me say that, but figure out a way to do it. Get creative. How can you provide value? Is it through putting up quotes? Is it, putting up awesome pictures of great destinations around the world? Is it getting on there every day and giving a tip of the day? What value can you give through your Instagram stories? That's number 1. Number 2 is showcasing your life. So what that means is you're showing people inside look at who you are, what you do, allowing them to connect to you as a person, as a human being, and really get to know your personality of like what you're all about. And obviously this is going to change every single day based off of what you're doing and who you are. But I would just recommend you really do get in the habit of, using your Insta story to give a little bit of perspective on your life, showing people your daily routine. When you're walking out on stage, you're doing the Insta story, right? Or even when you have a sick day, you jump on there and you talk about health and how important it is, whatever it is for you, but you're just being real, you're being raw, being transparent, being authentic, but you're showing people who you are and what you're about. And so those are the two strategies that I recommend people do, and do them as often as you can.
Mm-hmm. Now, is one better than the other, the content on the wall versus the stories, or can you be an influencer with either, or do you need both?
Well, you need to have content on your page, obviously. I mean, you don't have to necessarily use your Insta story to grow a brand. It obviously helps, and it's a tool, and it's there for a reason. But if you don't have any content, if you don't have good content either on your wall, then you don't really have a page, right? Because when you go to somebody's Instagram, you don't see their story unless you click on it. It's another step. You see what their wall looks like. So you definitely need to have good content. But the difference is that with the content on your wall, that needs to be more like thought out, in my opinion. It needs to be more thought out. It needs to tell a story. It needs to have good captions. You need to have quality pictures, and videos and things like that. Whereas your story, again, that's more just like you being you, like you jumping on, taking a picture of, doing a podcast, right? It's not, you don't need to like edit it and do all these things to it, because it's just, again, it's you showcasing your day-to-day life.
Okay. And what's the Explorer page?
The Explorer page is just when you go on Instagram, when you go to when you're not looking at any particular feed and there's just a bunch of videos and photos of all the different people on Instagram and you're just scrolling through it, that's called like the Explorer page or the Discover page.
Oh, okay. With Instagram, you're only allowed one link, and you can't really even fit a link inside of the content, but I know you can say see link in bio. Mm-hmm. So how do you get people to even click on the links? Is there any other tactics besides just saying click on link in the bio?
Yeah, I mean, so they're commonly known as like call to actions, and it's just basically directing your followers to take an action. So if you have a link in your bio, obviously then you'd want to direct people there, right? So a few ways you can do that is in your actual bio above the link, you have a little description, just a couple buzzwords of what it's about, and then like some arrows pointing down to it for them to click on, like, hey, grab my free, 5 tips on how I made, $1 million last year or whatever. And you have like arrows pointing down. And so in your bio, you can definitely have a call to action in there. The link itself, honestly, is a call to action if you set it up properly. Just the domain name that you're actually using. Example being, I wouldn't use like a Bitly link. I would use a custom domain name that's like relevant to whatever it is that the link takes people to. Another one is like you mentioned in your actual captions, explaining kind of like why, and it's just almost selling like why they should go there and click on it, and then saying link in the bio, and having that in there. So those are a couple.
Because you can't put a clickable link in the content section itself, can you?
Nope.
Yeah. And that's always what I have found confusing. It's like, I know with the call to actions of other things, you have the clickable link, but here they have to read the content and then go up to your profile page, to your bio page to click on the link.
Right. Yeah. Definitely a challenge.
Yeah. Now, how about do they frown upon if you put URLs in your content, even though they're not clickable? And do you advise doing that?
I don't know if they necessarily frown upon it, only because they're just not clickable. So it just looks, it's a URL that you can't do anything with. So, I mean, I personally wouldn't recommend doing it because it just looks really bad. And it kind of looks like you don't really know that it doesn't work. It almost it's like a rookie mistake almost, because it's not clickable. So like, what's the point and you can't copy and paste it. So I don't, there's really no point.
You can, can't you? I have.
Well, you can, if you're on your phone, you can't copy if
you're on your phone, you can't copy and paste.
Right, which is 99% of people, and that are on there. And then also, it's not, if it's just buried in the caption itself, like you might be able to copy the entire caption, but then it just, you got to go cut out all the other words and stuff. And so it's just, I wouldn't recommend doing it.
Okay, and just keep with the link in the bio.
Right.
If they see link in bio, which is the call to action.
Mm-hmm.
And then also with talking about links, what do you think about Linktree? Or even what I've actually done is I created a Instagram page on my website. And so I have it clicked to there, to where I have different gifts there. So are these good, bad, indifferent?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can cross promote your brands, that's always good. If you're cross promoting on different platforms, one being a website, that's always a good thing to do. So yeah, absolutely on that. And then, yeah, I mean, Linktree is really good. It really just depends on what you're doing. If you actually legitimately have multiple offers that are, somewhat related, then Linktree is a great idea. But just obviously understand that as soon as you send somebody there, now they're going to get hit with all these different avenues that they could go down. And so if you're really trying to push something or collect a lead for some specific thing, then you want to keep it very easy and simplistic for the lead to get there. So I wouldn't recommend using Linktree. But if you're kind of like, I just have a bunch of different things and I just send traffic to any of them and I don't really care, then that's a great tool to use. So it just totally depends on what your outcome is that you're looking for.
I know that you have a strategy that our listeners can implement in 15 minutes or less. So what would your strategy be?
Yeah. So, I mean, for overall, just like life in general, like when it comes to just business, I mean, the biggest thing that I can tell people, because when I did this, it radically changed my life, is truly figure out what path you want to go down right now. So not some like 5, 10, 15, 20-year goal. Like I'm talking right now, like wherever you're at in your life, what is the one thing that you're confident in that if you actually poured more time, more energy, more resources into, it would grow and it would expand. So figure out what your goal is over the next year and then just focus on that, completely on that. So, and it sounds so basic, but when I did this, when I literally went and I was like, here's the 1 or 2 things that I'm going to focus on this entire year. And I'm going to hold myself accountable to doing that, meaning that if other opportunities, if other things, other distractions come into my life, no matter how great they are, and they may seem at the time, I'm going to say no, because I've dedicated this year to this one goal. When I started doing that and every single solitary day was working towards, growing whatever that specific goal is, everything changed. My income changed, my network changed, everything changed because I was pouring my energy into one specific area. What so many people do, and especially in my generation, is we're just all over the place. It's like you have 10 different things that you want to accomplish and therefore you don't get any of them done, And so it's like, figure out what you can master right now and just pour yourself into that. That would be a huge strategy that I would give people just again for life, for business. And this works for absolutely anything that you're doing. It doesn't have to just be money. But again, just get rid of the distractions, say no more. And make sure that you have a clear idea of what it is that you're looking for and just go all out with it. And whatever that day-to-day looks like, make that happen and stick to it, because consistency is everything. You know what I mean? Like it really is. If you don't stay consistent, you're not going to ever get to the levels of success in any area of life. So figure it out of what you want to do and stay consistent with it every single solitary day, focusing your energy into that one thing.
Right. So would you even add for anything like this, if they're getting specific on their goal, maybe write it down, keep it in front of them every day?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Goal cards, whiteboards, do their goal on it, whatever works for you. There's no like exact, system to do it. Some things work for different people, but, making sure that you have your goal in front of you at all times you have to do that. That's part of the process. You're never going to accomplish anything if you're not thinking about it.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. And whenever it's in your face all the time, then it helps you remind it. It's one of the reasons why I love even your name of Vision Wall, because, it just automatically just reminded me of a vision board and of just a wall of always having your vision in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Alex, I know that you have a gift to share with our listeners. Can you share what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that are interested, in monetizing Instagram, what I did was I put together what I call like a cheat sheet. And it's just basically 3 strategies that I've personally used and currently use in order to go out there and earn an income through Instagram. And the cool thing about it is that you don't have to have a lot of followers. This is stuff that I did way before I was considered a quote unquote influencer. So it's just a quick little cheat sheet. It'll break down 3 very, very powerful techniques that you can use to go out there and, start monetizing on Instagram if that's something you're interested in doing.
Very, very good. Thank you. So wonderful gift. So to our listeners, you want to head on over to bizsuccessin15.com/Alex, all lowercase, ALEX, and grab your 3 secrets of monetizing on Instagram, even without a large following. And Alex, do you have any parting words?
No, just get on Instagram. I recommend it. It's the place to be no matter what business you're in, no matter who you are, what you're doing. I guess the last thing I'll say is I truly do believe that the ones with the biggest brands over the next 5 years are not only going to make the most money, but also create the most impact in whatever industry they're in. So I'll leave you guys with that.
I love that. Thank you very much, Alex. It's been a pleasure having you as my guest today.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's show, feel free to share it with your friends. You want to hop on over to bizsuccessin15.com/Alex, and you're going to find any links from today's show. You'll also be able to re-listen to Alex's words of wisdom, catch up on other episodes that you might have missed, and be sure to grab your 3 secrets of monetizing Instagram, even without a large following, while you're there. So with that, I hope you have a great week. Big hugs, and be sure to tune in next week with another amazing guest. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Biz Success in 15. For all links mentioned in today's show and to watch or listen to previous episodes, visit bizsuccessin15.com. Thanks so much for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for another amazing guest.